welcome everybody, and thank you for joining. And sorry I'm a little bit late. Like I said, I'm a little bit backlit over here. I'll introduce myself first, and then I'll let everybody introduce each other. So I am the virtual conference producer, and we have all been in video chats a lot over the last however weeks organizing this conference. It has been full on. It's been great, but it was been, I think, probably fair to say we never quite knew or expected what it was going to be. But it's been fantastic. And I'm also, I'm on the advisory board of Women in Games as well. So I've been on the advisory board for a few years, so I've been pretty involved. My background is actually in film production, TV, advertising, digital, but I've got a real interest in games and what games can be and the future of games. So that's a little bit about me. So I will then allow everybody else to introduce themselves. So Gemma, I'm going to give it turn the baton over to you.
Thank you. I'm Gemma. For Women in Games, I'm the Ambassador Director. So joined the exec board 2 years ago when it was formed, and have taken the ambassadors from 60 to 360 it is today. I think we're in 29 different countries and variety of different experiences that the ambassadors hold, and from those that want to get into games to those that are sort of towards the 39 countries. Thank you, Mary Claire. It's been a whirlwind the past 2 years. It really has with Women in Games. My day job is Dovetail Games. I'm the COO of Dovetail Games. Started there 8 years ago as the head of HR, and have progressed through the ranks since. Lucy?
Hi, so I'm Lucy. I am the marketing director at Women in Games, and actually I only joined the Women in Games family in March, so literally just as lockdown was about to happen, which is great fun. So actually I've met very few of the Women in Games people in person. It's all been by video, but it's all been great. But I've actually been in the games industry for about 10 years, working in agencies, marketing, doing a lot of brand partnerships to do with fashion and all sorts. I've been previously EA, but now I also have my own marketing agency, and I have a few clients such as Star Stable, who were chatting in here yesterday, Riot, and a few others. But I'm very much in a family of gamers with a husband in the games industry as well. But it's great, and I'm really, must admit, I'm really enjoying working with Women in Games. It's been so much fun, even just being here for like 6 months. It's been exciting. And to Ruth.
Thank you, Lucy. So I'm Ruth Falconer. I think most of you maybe have seen me by now. I've certainly covered a few sessions. So I'm the Education Director of Women in Games, joined also at the beginning when the board formed alongside Gemma. We're looking at launching the Education Ambassadors and taking that initiative forward in the next year. So that sits very much alongside and complements Gemma's individual and corporate ambassador network. Also interested in, we've been discussing, you know, in Women in Games, new initiatives, educational initiatives. So it's not, I mean, I work in the HE sector, so I'm also, my day job is responsible for the BSc Games courses at Abertay, but we're also looking at having more interactions with other industry education providers, not just HE and FE, so schools, more community events, as we kind of talked a little bit about last night. We were just about to launch a survey in March that was going to baseline the gender balance across undergraduate games courses. So there's something like 450 games courses in the UK now. Wow. But then kind of COVID happened, and then the conference happened, so that's kind of been put on the back burner. So it would be interesting to hear people's thoughts. I think through a lot of the discussions yesterday, there's still a need for that data, because although we know maybe how many games students there are, it's very difficult to understand how the diversity is across the different courses, just the way the reporting happens, much like most reporting, I guess. Also interested in, you know, forming partnerships to do other educational initiatives as well. So open to discussions around that as well. But that's enough for me. I don't usually talk as long as that.
Well, thank you all. So I think, look, everybody who's watching, if you've got any questions, then put them in the chat. And if there's anything that you want to ask about Women in Games or even about the conference, then let us know. Thank you. But I think, like, you know, while we kind of let everybody percolate, I suppose what are some of the things that you think are important that Women in Games can do to help women in the industry? Like, if anybody wants to take that.
I can take it from myself because I know I've been involved as well with what Mary Claire has talked about today to do with the campaign, and kind of how Women in Games can move forward and what we're looking to do for the next year. I think it's been amazingly interesting being at the conference and meeting everyone and seeing how people talk about being a gamer and everything else, but it's great to see so many different people from so many different areas and walks of life and everything. And, you know, we really are about embracing everyone within the games industry. And I think that's a really clear one for us. And I'm looking forward to doing having some real active sessions going forward. You know, we really want to help and service the community and bring as many women into the games industry as possible. Gemma, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, can't really add much to that. There's Women in Games is all about the community. You've just got to be immersed in the conference day. I've always enjoyed our physical conferences and networking, and it's always been a real different vibe for me. And when we started talking at the beginning of the year about having this conference digitally, that was one sort of concern of how do we bring that essence of our conference here, and I think we've done it, and that's with thanks to everybody that's watching, because they're a huge part of our community. And it's been really great seeing the comments and the love and the sessions, and I still learn things every day.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, like I've sort of discussed, like I said to everybody watching, we've been talking a lot of late, and because we've just been planning this. But like, even from my point of view, it's really exciting, and seeing some of the comments that this allows a lot more people to join. And be involved, like having something that's in a location where there's all these other women around the world that can benefit from it. And obviously I think there's a bit of a taster of the potential. Right, there's a lot more potential, and like we've got like a session later on, everybody, which is just to get people's feedback about what they would like to see more of, and I think that will be really interesting. You know, just to see. Yeah, Ruth?
I was just going to say, and I think, you know, when we were coming up with the programme, curating the various elements, there were so many things we couldn't put in the conference. So that kind of shows, you know, that there's lots that's going to go on next year that aligns with the campaign that Lucy and Mary Claire were talking a bit about. There was lots on education, but, you know, we just couldn't ram it in. And so I think there's we've got a plan now for other events that we can run, but would like to hear also, you know, from others if there was any events that they would like to see as well.
There's a question here from Amanda, that it says Women in Games is definitely in the minority, and it's great to see the passion people have to adjust it. But moving forward, is the WIG organisation going to look at increasing ethnic minorities and people with disabilities into video games?
Yeah, we want equality for all, and fairness, and a community and culture that welcomes and embraces everybody from all walks of life. In women, there are so many different intersectionalities. You know, women are about 50% of the population, so that's definitely. And this platform has given us accessibility, inclusion on so many different levels.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, our mission is equity and parity, and without doubt, that's something across everything. I mean, I have quite a strong belief that sometimes make certain games into actually, you kind of need to reflect it in your own workforce to be able to understand what you can do. You know, those that are open to everyone, you'll see it reflected in the games they're making. And so, you know, what we can do is we can sit here and help encourage that, and then that gets reflected actually into the games. I think it's really important.
And I think the thing as well is, like, you know, again, to everybody watching, like, this was pretty tough to pull together. And like, we didn't really know exactly what we would up against. I mean, you know, it's virtual. It's actually more work than you think it's going to be. But there were a lot of things that we probably would have liked to have done that we ended up going, well, we can't do it. But I mean, the beauty of it is we think we can keep stuff going. And that said, like, hearing more from people about what they'd like to see. And like I said, for me, I think even for me as a woman growing up, it's like learning from other women's experiences and their knowledge and all of that is so valuable. And I suppose being able to connect online or have a space where you can hear about others people's experience is, from my point of view, is just so helpful. And it's so obviously wonderful to see that that's of great value to everybody else.
Yeah, totally.
Like, I think that's so, you know, was there anything you know, conference wise, it's a highlight for you guys?
There's a question from Haida.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Haida. Okay, yes. You can answer that, Gemma.
I think taking advantage of the remote ways we're working at the moment, we're all learning how to embrace remote working. I know in lots of the industry are now working from home and not from the studios, and where that's before been a barrier, perhaps our eyes have been opened a bit more as to the real possibilities of having those connections and being physically isolated isn't necessarily a big barrier for you now, and tapping into the Women in Games network, encouraging that.
It's no longer just about location, is it?
That's it.
Community is about it all. Sorry, Gemma, I'm taking
That's
Gemma
right.
But
no, you can go.
The Women in Games Facebook community is incredibly strong, and so is the LinkedIn, and actually incredibly supportive. I must admit, I really, really appreciate this, and I think that's what it is that you can no longer think about it as being country specific. You're a Women in Games. We're a big community.
We heard this morning as well in one of the sessions that some women-only events like women-only game jams and things like that, they will be online now as well, given the current situation. So I guess it's maybe being aware of some of the activities that's happening in that space. So that was something that was organised by Refig, for example. But I think, following Women in Games Facebook page and Twitter account, we usually repost things like that, so that might be useful to begin to share around your community, Haida, and at least to raise awareness of it.
And join the ambassador program, which you will connect with. If you're in Iceland, so I don't think we've got an ambassador in that country yet, so that's a big tick. And there's a big tick that you've got there, yeah.
We would help support, put a wee event on.
And I suppose as well, like, that's the thing about what we can do more with this platform, because got Hoppin for a year. So that's something very much about, like said, over the other sorts of events. They don't all have to be as big as this one, do they?
No, not at all. Actually, events-wise, and talking about community, the ambassador coffee mornings are so good. And I know I've joined some, and they really are just such a lovely space for women in the games industry to talk to each other and about their experiences.
Definitely, yeah. They started as a result of COVID-19, and we keep them small and intimate and regular. And obviously they've been on pause for a little while now, but it's a real great way to share your expertise and your knowledge and connect with people all over the world.
Definitely.
All right, there's a question from Sam as well, who's interested in becoming an ambassador in Colombia. So she's a trans person going into the games industry, so just interested in focusing on helping and advocating. I was wondering if there's a special area of WIG that focuses on that.
No, Sam, you're definitely welcome to be our guy on that. Join us. We've got Sylvia and, can't remember her other name, but we have 3 or 4 ambassadors in Colombia already. So we've got Sandra later, who's doing My Story. Join with them or drop me a mail or LinkedIn, and I'll introduce you.
And the advisory board member Elizabeth Sampith was quite interested
Yes,
also
yeah.
in being supportive for other gender minorities. So yeah, I think that's
I think they're
definite
actually
need.
thinking of doing a bit of a focus group on that post-conference to sort of see how the Women in Games community can help, what we can do and support and that sort of side, and what's the right, the right way to do that. But
to do.
totally, I mean, it would embrace everyone. Come join us.
Yeah, Sylvia's reached out to you, so definitely.
And Caroline, like I said, Caroline Courtney from Amnesty International did that great session
Yeah.
earlier, and like that deck was fantastic, which I will get. But I mean, I think, like I said, so many organisations need that. So, even those sorts of resources. But I suppose that's where you look at what ideas there are from the community about what Women in Games can do more of, and how we can do that. So, I think that's is really great as well. So, any more questions, people?
Yes, there's one from
ambassadors.
There is from Amanda, curious about what's involved with being a WIG ambassador. So it's all about community outreach here in your local area, going into, when we can, talking into schools, in your workplace. It's a public role, so being available for your social media, LinkedIn, and advocating being women in games, not necessarily being a woman in games.
We also, from my perspective in marketing, I often contact the ambassadors at different points because we often get asked for speakers at events and things like that. So you kind of fall into those community as well, where we might come and ask you to do that. But I know Gemma and I've got some plans for some events we're looking to host as well for the ambassadors, hopefully over the year, and kind of provide a support as well. But it's a bad thing to be done.
So yeah, here we go.
I see Faye's there. I follow you on Twitter, Faye. Hello.
Oh, that's great. I've just seen Victoria. That's excellent. Yes, I mean, that would be great. I think they've said all the support that we can get.
I'll tell you, I just noticed Victoria's comment as well about Women in the Game. Honestly, we have 39 countries represented. So Women in Game abroad, it's online, it's within wherever you work, it's everywhere, that we are global and looking to push more so.
Yeah, the events we've run before, obviously the coffee breaks, we've had ambassadors talk in their workplace about being an ambassador, or their project, or focus on career talks, portfolio reviews, CV reviews, mentoring, just reaching out into that network. The Women in Games Facebook page is a wealth of knowledge and experience, and you have any questions, you just go on there, and it's a really supportive and welcoming place for all.
Yeah, to get advice or to get, I mean, it's excellent that for people just sharing their knowledge, but so is there any highlights for I said back to my highlights for each of you about the whole virtual conference experience?
Can I start there, Ruth?
Yeah, Ruth. How you hanging in there? Are you all right?
Yeah, no, right. I've got coffee.
My biggest highlight was when it all went live on day one, and it's all sort of worked great.
It worked well. As I said, everybody watching, I was the person yesterday putting everybody live on stage, which was highly stressful. I had my own little control room.
Oh, no, it was good. It went really well.
The alien's been a highlight.
I must admit, again, it's the community side. I'm sorry, I just love, the grateful community and the fantastic we're grateful to them. I think for me as well, I've learned quite a bit, actually, to be honest. Just sitting and listening to some of the talks from people that everyone has done. And I mean, one thing I know that I've really taken out, and I have been chatting to these guys about, I feel like we have to do something about people not wanting to say they're a gamer or being female online. I really want to, we want to be proud gamers, and what can we do with that? And so for me, it's been great as a learning side, but particularly for Women in Games.
Yeah, and I think also the diversity of the content different sectors of the game industry, education industry, all of that is just great, kind of bringing all that together.
And even the different games that were presented, you know, in terms of their genres and their purpose, I thought that was fantastic. It's showcasing just the diversity of the products, you know, games, and it's not just all shooter games or Grand Theft Auto. So that really, I think, you know, was and the positivity, you know, just following that chat, you know, during the day has been pretty inspiring, I would say.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right, there's a question there for Ponima. All right, pain points when you started.
In our careers or the conference?
I'm not sure whether or both. I just do the previous questions, which is to get the Women in Games chapter moving better in India, and what's the everything.
So the chapter in India, during the conference, Ponima, I've had another ambassador reach out about that very thing. So post-conference, I'll reach out to you and speak to you about how we can get that going. But that'd be great. Really up for that.
And then Gemma's asked if there's any opportunities to get involved that are less public facing, more behind the scenes work. I would answer on your behalf and say yes.
Definitely.
Loads of different areas, from data collection analysis, or, you know, helping out with marketing
research. Yeah.
I've got a big list.
Just to, I mean, for everyone is aware, we are actually a completely part-time, if not voluntary team. You know, we are very small team, and I mean, I work at part-time, and I think Mary Claire does, Gemma's, you know, she does it sort of alongside a full-time job. So we're always looking for anyone that can come and help us, or, you know, give us some extra information, everything. You know, I think perhaps sometimes from the outside it looks like we're big, we're singing and dancing, and we're really not. And a lot of times the few of us scrambling around sorting everything out.
We are all swans.
Cool
and calm on the outside and furiously paddling underneath.
Definitely. And Ruth has got a full-time job as well. I didn't mean to miss her either.
No, it's fine. It just feels like I
just the head of a department.
Just add it into everything else. I know.
And it's also, like I said, there's also so much that can be done, and I suppose that's the thing about, like, with the conference or working on it, you go, okay, it'd be great to establish, we were discussing earlier, a list of speakers that we can help so that there's more speakers, and, you know, recommending people and people who want to, and getting other voices out there as well. So, we've got Mina, we've got a question that's flying by.
It's a good question.
It's a good question.
All right, who's going to take it?
Should we just, sorry, if anyone doesn't know, it's to do with, she said, I've been recruiting for games for 20 years. It's great to see more women in there, and there's huge change, but obviously following sexual discrimination in studios, do you think this will affect women coming in? Gemma, do you want to start here? I'll throw that.
Thank you. It possibly could, and I think it's on all of us to hold to those accountable that have been reported to be abusing and harassing their people, their employees, their colleagues, their peers. You know, what is great is it is no longer being swept under the rug and not listened to, and companies are being held accountable, and companies and businesses and individuals need to step up and own their own truth, and Women in Games support them. Not the companies, the people.
And, you know, do you think as well, like with a lot of, you know, this is organisations generally, not just games ones, is that how they run themselves and how they operate is fundamentally part of their identity, and something that a lot of companies need to look at. That was Paula in the background there. But yeah, like, you know, like there's, you know, the way in which organisations are run is more under the lens. You know, it's like there's been a way that corporate companies or big companies, it's not just in the games industry, run that's a male paradigm that I think is being largely challenged about what good management looks like and what good teams look like and a good company, really. A bit of an area of interest of mine.
I would certainly say it will affect, because, you know, women are going to consider, given what's been in the press, whether they want to work in that environment. So I think it's a responsibility for the studios to showcase how that behaviour isn't maybe in all of the studios, and to, as Gemma was saying, to make people accountable for their actions. So I think, unfortunately, it will affect women's decisions. It's just how big an impact it's going to be, and I guess as time will tell, and organisations like Women in Games are there to support and be champions for.
Definitely. Well, yeah, I mean, I was doing the Q&A last night for Tabitha Hayes' talk, and I know that someone's going to be in Activision, and she's been at EA, and now she works at Star Stable, which is a complete 50% exec team, women, men. There's a 50% studio. It's fantastic. And people were asking about, you know, how do you kind of stand out and stuff, and then she's going, it's also always as well about finding the right place for you, and that, you know what, there are going to be studios that stand out who are very much going like, we take account, and that's what will bring women in. And actually what will help is that will bring the standard up across the whole industry.
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone else will start going, what the hell are we not doing? And I think that will continue. But, you know, organisations like this, you know, we need to shout out. We're very good at shouting inside the games industry. We need to shout outside and say to other women, come and join us. Girls, it's not, you know, it's everything. It's marketing, it's STEM, it's, you know, coding, it's art. The games industry is wide. Come and join. Like, don't be put off. I
mean, you know, yeah. And I think, like, to some of the comments, it's like, what does good look like? You know, like how do good organizations function, and how do you make good games or anything? And I think that's really under question, and that it has to be more representative of diversity in society, in order, for all sorts of reasons. You know, why that makes sense. It makes business sense. It makes cultural sense. It's all of the above. So I think that's very much under the spotlight. But yeah. All right, everybody. I think we're our time is up. So anybody, we just had a drink later. Anyway, but thank you everybody for tuning in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.